Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you're all great, smashing, super, wherever you are in the world. Got lots to discuss today. Lots been happening in the Son of Sam world with the release of the new Netflix series, Conversations with a Killer. Son of Sam tapes. Got the awesome Anthony and Neo with me today. How are you two?
Hi, Rena.
You
What's
okay?
going on, Rena? What's going on, Ant? How you been, man?
What's up, buddy?
All right.
How's it going?
It's been a while, Ant. How you been?
Good.
Yeah.
Good enough, getting along.
Are you still interested in Son of Sam, Ant? Do you still read up on it, keep up with the goings on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still interested in it. I mean, I'm here.
Yeah.
I just watched the the new Netflix thing that came
What
out.
did you think of it?
I mean, I picked up on some things that some cops said that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but it was all right. I don't know. It didn't really add anything new except the thing at the end there.
Wendy.
Right. But
Yeah.
other than that, it was just sort of a regurgitation of stuff that we've seen before. But it's always interesting. It's always an interesting case.
Yeah, it's like this case. It's like it's never going to go away. I mean, there's always something happening in Son of Sam world, whether it's a new documentary or a new book or a new podcast, new YouTubers, whatever. Like, I think this case is probably discussed more than any out there. But this is one of the main ones I look at, so I would say that. Neo, have you watched it?
Yeah. I caught it, and you know my opinions on it.
Let the world know.
Yeah, Manny Grossman, the kid you see on there is the fraud that's stolen all my work and managed to behind the scenes just manipulate a bunch of cops into thinking he's an expert with his manipulated information. I'm just glad that my book came out about a month after they finished production because they miss a lot in this documentary. There's a lot in my book that this documentary doesn't touch. It focuses a lot on his younger years, where I think that's a factor, but I think we all had those younger years, the circumstances that they focus on. It's what changed him and what turned him, mostly from the Army on is what I feel. Really, they didn't focus too much on, in the God aspect of Berkowitz. The main motive I feel David Berkowitz did this was his fight with God, and they didn't seem to touch on that too much. But I thought it was okay. Besides watching My Apprentice, The Fraud, in it, and the Wendy stuff again. We've discussed the Wendy stuff. It's a shame. The whole thing.
Well, his background story is, to me, it's entirely uninteresting. I picked that up during the when I was watching it on Netflix, and I said to myself, do they concentrate too much on this guy's upbringing? And the world is full of those stories, full of them.
Right.
We
Like
get
the
it.
adoption, right? The adoption and him losing his mother. I mean, there's a lot of us that happens to. Right.
Right. So I said to myself, he's sitting at the meeting with the other adopted kids or whatever, and he tells them, "Oh yeah, my mom died of childbirth," and they'll start laughing because they were all told the same story. Okay, well, what that means is that story is pretty common. So were these other kids, did they grow up to be losers who went around murdering people at random? No.
Right, but it is a pretty tough situation to deal with when you lied your whole life and then you find that out. You still, as a human, you got to deal with that. Definitely factored, but there was a lot of things that went on to the breaking point that broke him. That normal people don't go that far.
He was unsuccessful in all walks of life.
Right, everything crashed down on this guy. Right.
Well, what I find interesting is he originally was looking for his birth father, and then he tells his story, and they say he says my mum died giving birth to me, and they laughed at him, and he's like, oh yeah, Dave, that we're all told that, and then it was redirected from his father to his mother, And then he meets his mother, and then she's this huge disappointment to him, and then like everything seems to fall apart for him after that.
Right. Yeah, he meets her, and she's a huge disappointment. Right, and she even gets married, and doesn't invite him in that end of year 75. Also, you know, his girlfriend he thought he had got married around the same time too. So this was a lot for him to deal with at the end of 75. That was a big impact that broke him. You know, his mother was. Meeting her was a big disappointment. Yeah.
Yeah, I also think his father was a loser. To be honest with you, he didn't do a good job as a dad. I mean, the guy loves his mother, or whatever, his adoptive mother.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the tale. He had many mothers and many fathers.
No, but wait, you think his father Nathan was a loser?
Yeah, I mean, who just leaves their young troubled son?
Well,
to
I don't think it really didn't
go
down. It really didn't go down like that, Ant. He was in the Bronx, and he had met, another woman.
Right.
Okay? He had married Julia, another woman, and he had been robbed at his hardware store a few months prior to him leaving. The area was changing, and he didn't want to be there anymore, really. And I'm pretty sure, he asked David to go with him. But yeah, there was things going on in the Bronx at that time. He had been robbed at his hardware store. I think that had a big impact with him getting out of there.
Dude, I knew.
Did he abandon him? I don't really think he abandoned him, but I think David felt like he abandoned from him. So
yeah, you don't. Yeah, I mean, when you have a troubled young kid like he wasn't that young. I guess he was in his late teens or early 20s. How old was he when his father left? You don't do that. The dude is troubled, man. And you're all he has in his life. You leave him there. You leave him in New York to stir.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, he felt he had nobody, Ant.
Yeah, and I don't think his father did the right thing. So, I mean, and that matters, because if his father's around, probably none of this ever happens. Probably.
And then again, look, he leaves with the woman he married, another woman getting in David's way of his happiness, which was being with his father in a sense, sort of like his father chose the woman in a sense. These are things that I think he may have felt, not necessarily as what happened, that he had to deal with,
What I find interesting is kids, teenagers have a lot more problems than David. And what makes someone like David go and commit the most horrendous acts? And then someone else completely turn their lives around, and what is the difference between him and us?
Giving up. He'd lost his faith and hope, and really.
But lots of us have given up, but we don't go and kill people. What's the difference between him and us?
He had this thing where he hated women for a lot of different reasons. I guess he just thought that the way he came into the world and
right.
He was like the original incel, wasn't he?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean,
he blames them for where he's at in life. Being adopted, being thrown away. Iris, the stepmother. Who knows what else happened with girls in his life? But he blames women for him having a horrible life, and behind it all, he blames God. God is responsible for everything that's happened to him, and that's what really breaks him.
Yeah, I think the Netflix documentary could have focused a lot more on like what happened to him in the army. I think they skipped over that a little bit too quickly.
That was a big part of the switch.
Yeah.
Well, that's what some of his friends said. Yeah.
Right. When I met his friends, they all stressed when he came back from the army, he wasn't the same. So I knew I had to look into that a lot, and I did.
When I came back from the Air Force, I wasn't the same, but in a better way. I was, you know what I mean? Most people.
Different times, definitely.
Yeah, I guess so. A lot of drugs and stuff. And I was in South Korea for a year, like he was.
Yeah. Berkowitz went in there to fight the war. He wanted to be an army guy, and he gets in there very disappointed at what was going on there, where he gains resentment towards his government and doesn't want anything to do with them. And he doesn't like what he's a part of. So, that really bothered him. Coming back also after he did time in the service, all his friends are pretty much cops, firemen, and everybody's married and doing good. And he's not. And he's one way to serve his country. And he didn't like where he was at when he came back.
He's a young man. He's got desires. He's not fulfilling them. He sees other people enjoying life.
Right.
And he's not. and I'm sure that played a big role in it.
Well, yeah, he comes out of the army and all his friends have moved on, got married, having kids, and he's still stuck in this, like, here's me alone, no ambition, no
Directionless,
girlfriend, no family, no nothing. You know,
lonely, directionless, and unsuccessful. Right.
that's gonna play a huge toll on your mental health. And we know back then there was no decent mental health services, not like, well, I say there is today. There really isn't, but
Yeah.
there's more than there was then.
Yeah, I would definitely say he had something wrong with him that wasn't paid attention to, right? You know.
Did anything stick out to you in the documentary? And like, did anything like, oh, wow, I didn't know that? Like, was it just the Wendy stuff that you didn't know about? Like,
No, I mean, we had been through. I mean, I joined you guys for a podcast about the Wendy thing a while back. So
Yeah.
that was really nothing new. I had heard all that before.
so nothing swayed your mind either for David or against? Like, nothing watching that you haven't thought anymore? Yeah, David shot Wendy, or David definitely didn't shoot Wendy.
No, I haven't changed my mind. I still leave the door open either way. You know, I think it's plausible that he did and plausible that he did not. But we're never going to know, and that's the important thing. You know, so I don't think it's really worth spending too much energy on. But I always see the political stuff as a cop. I understand why cops do things and say things. And I understand it in a way that maybe civilians don't. And I'm not unique in that. Most cops can watch that and come up with the same things that I came up with. I just don't know if they would say it in public like I do. For example, I heard someone say, I don't know if it was in the new Netflix show, but I remember hearing someone say that Berkowitz can't admit it because the statute of limitations, there's no statute of limitations on it. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. Of course, there's a statute of limitations. If he had actually, if he did it and he had actually killed her, then there wouldn't be a statute of limitations. But on attempted murder, attempted murder in the second degree, certainly, there is a statute of limitations. I don't know. I don't remember if it's like 7 years or something like that.
Oh, really?
But, yeah, of course there's a statute of limitations. I mean, think about it. They're pinning it on him and closing the case. If there was no statute of limitations, they would have to prosecute him. Right? I mean, how could you say he did, case closed, but not prosecute him? He's still alive.
Right. There's no judge or jury or committee deciding anything. It was a
attempted murder
question.
Degree
it was a questionnaire filled out and just paid attention to, I guess.
I think the whole Wendy Savino story is, it just seems to change wherever you hear her. I mean, Wendy, I'm so sorry this happened to you.
Yeah.
Somebody out there shot you, whether they're alive, dead, whatever. But essentially, I think they've gotten away with it.
Yeah, by now, sure.
I don't think, the majority of people, whatever side of this case you're on, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think a majority of people think David shot Wendy. And I'll say it again. I am not defending David. I don't care about his feelings. But somebody out there is trying to rewrite this case. And there's absolutely nothing pointing to David doing this.
Why? They're trying to add to it, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Why would
they're trying to rewrite the whole case, but they're trying to add to it.
Right.
Well,
and also if you read the interrogation right after he was arrested, pretty sure it was the Queens DA. He asks him, he goes through all the shootings with him at the end and asks him if there was any other, is this it? Is this, all the shootings here and so forth, the thing was discussed, is there anyone else? And he says, no. And this is where he's being honest with the cops here in this interrogation. Besides the crazy Sam story. Yeah, he lied about the Sam story, but he never said anyone committed these murders with him. He never said anyone shot anybody with him. He never said anybody was involved. He never even spoke to Sam Carr. So those aren't like lies he's doing. That's a whole story he's doing. In the interrogation, he does not lie to the police at all. And he tells them, no, he did not shoot anybody besides the subjects that he discussed in the interrogation also. I mean, there's just so many things you can come at with. But why does this case become a matter of me or anybody for that matter producing evidence when it should be the person who's accusing this producing evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Right.
Well, where is it? There's no evidence that Berkowitz did this, but yet I got about 100 pieces of evidence that show more possibility that he didn't do it. And I know what you're saying. It's a possibility he didn't, but there's no proof that he did. That's what you need to see, not my proof that he didn't. You're right. Give me the proof that he did, because there's none.
The
It's
burden,
zero.
the burden is on the person saying that he did to prove it. I get it. Yeah. And that's
Well,
the way
if you
it
look
works,
at the
obviously.
manipulated evidence that is being used, if any of them would like to debate or any of them would like to counter the argument, every single piece of their evidence is manipulated. Okay.
So,
From the fact that when
yeah,
he left the Caceres, to the shooting being in the area, to the smiling gunman. It's all a lie. It's all manipulated evidence, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's the important thing is that there's really no new evidence. So I see in the documentary, and actually I remember reading in the New York Post article, they said that Manny brought it to these people's attention down at the homicide squad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yet at the same time, he only came across the Wendy Savino shooting information in the Son of Sam files that he was researching.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's pulling them out of the Son of Sam research files, then clearly someone had made the possible connection long before he did. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the Son of Sam files.
Right. That I agree. And
So-
I would have had it there too. But they weren't stupid detectives
Well,
at the time either.
He's showing
I mean,
the
come on.
NYPD a connection that they've clearly already made themselves, albeit, probably a long time ago. So what he's basically doing is just showing it to new detectives that weren't around back then.
Right.
And they said, oh, yeah, fuck it, close it out.
And what
Yeah,
and what
sure.
evidence did you bring forth
Nothing
now
new,
that
right.
the detectives didn't see back then? Can I see
Right.
that?
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing new. So it's,
But the
Yeah,
thing-
and why was David never questioned when he was arrested if they thought he was suspicious of Wendy was part of the Son of Sam crimes?
oh, well, that's a whole different, we could do a whole podcast on that, on how they botched the police work in the immediate aftermath. You don't go, on a case like that, you don't go from, 3 o'clock in the afternoon having not a damn clue who the guy was, not the first slightest clue. All right, you're basically hunting ghosts. And but by the end of the night, the mayor's announcing that the case is closed, investigation closed. We got the guy. Everyone go to sleep, and sleep well, because it's just, that's crazy to me.
What stands out with Wendy's case for me is she says the attacker was hiding behind a skip, a dumpster.
A what?
A dumpster, a skip. She says skip. Skip is what we call a dumpster here, a skip.
Right.
So that screams to me that person was waiting for someone.
But how does she even
specifically.
know that? I mean,
Well, she says she
she's
saw him
seen a
come
man
out from
hiding behind the
behind
dumpster
skip.
before she got in her car.
But we know David prowled the streets looking for fair game, tasty meat. He wasn't hiding behind dumpsters. That just wasn't what David did. This guy was like he was
nothing
specifically looking for somebody.
David did in this. Nothing. Zero.
When did David laugh? When did David
That was
smile?
nothing. Zero.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's all true. It's not this positive, but it's true. Yeah.
And the guy that was sitting in Nina's restaurant staring at her all night. How Manny and Lorenzo can just dismiss Jay and Wendy when they're like, oh, that's not something David would do. I'm not dismissing it, but, that's not something David would do.
Now that I think about it, what was the window? What was the time frame between when they actually made the call up to Yonkers and actually had him in handcuffs?
The time frame?
Yeah.
They called on the
know?
9th at 8 o'clock, 8:20 or so, talked to Wheat, and they were up in Yonkers about 2 o'clock the next day on the 10th.
Oh, okay. So it was all right. So
Yeah.
safe to say in less than 24 hours, they found their suspect, arrested him, and
Right.
closed the
Now,
case.
since you brought that up,
Publicly closed the
okay, since you brought that up, Zigo goes up to the car, right? And now he's onto a suspect here, and he looks through the car window and he sees a gun in the back seat, which then caused him to go in and see that it was so he says now, machine gun. We'll talk about that, and some letters. Now, did he have the right to do that?
Well, first of all, what really happened, we're never going to know. That was 1977. My guess is back then, they just pulled up to this car and went right into it. A wire hanger or something,
Right. But
He
did he
said
have
he
a
pushed
right,
the window
being
down
that this was it was an emergency? This is Son of Sam now. He's got a lot of information on him. This car was at the last shooting. He sees this stuff. I don't want to know, would you go in as a detective? Because I know that answer, because every detective would have went in. Was he allowed to go in the car?
Well, I know because he found David's photographs in the glove compartment. So he knew what he looked like from those photographs. It was like Woolworth's photographs.
Right, but was he allowed to go in the car?
Was he?
Yeah.
And
So
go in the glove compartment also? Like, what's the technicalities with that?
okay, all right. So, full disclosure, I was never a detective. I never applied for a search warrant or anything like that. But I had to study the laws governing, search warrant applications and things like that for promotion tests. I took, I passed 2 promotion tests. I got promoted twice, so I had to study all that stuff. And it's a lot to study. My understanding is that I've also seen detectives do this stuff in the field. As a cop, I had to guard crime scenes while they went to get search warrants and things like that. So my understanding is that they probably should not have gone into the car. Did they? Yeah, of course they did. Why?
So
Because
so it was illegal going into the car?
yeah, I mean, it gets muddier.
So that evidence would be no good in court.
It gets muddier when they start saying that they saw a duffel bag in the back seat and that there was a machine gun sticking out of it. And
what was he supposed to do?
Probably what they should have done is watch the car, keep some cops close by it or something like that,
Make it sterile,
or in some way, make it inaccessible to the public, and go get a warrant. I mean, you have to basically
Right.
safeguard it. You have to safeguard the car, make
right.
sure no one can get access to the car
Right.
or anything that's inside of it.
Surveil the car, make sure no one goes near it. Go get the right paperwork and warrants
Right.
to be able to go. Yeah, right.
Why didn't they do that? Why? Because what's in the back seat, right? It's not just even if there was a duffel bag, it's not just a duffel bag. You know what's in the back seat, right? Glory. There's glory in the back seat. Whoever catches this guy, whoever finds the gun,
right,
they're gonna get their name in the papers. They're gonna be a big star. They're gonna get promoted. So you have to understand that is real. That competition factor.
Right, and
it was different times.
Yeah, of course. No cameras around.
And for the record, that evidence didn't matter to get him in court because he came out of the building with the 44 in his hand and admitted that. So the 44 is all they needed in court. So even if it was illegal what he did, that evidence didn't matter as far as getting it. Never mind him admitted it.
In a case like that, it's so high profile, and he's such a vicious human being that you better believe the courts are going to grant a lot of leeway when it comes to was the law followed strictly.
And let me point out too,
it was impulse, Anne. It was impulse, adrenaline going, what do we do? Let's just do this. We'll worry about it later. Let's just get this guy. Laws weren't being followed, is what you're saying.
My guess is probably not. If they went into the car right away, almost certainly not, in my opinion. I mean, unless they
every detective
again, sometimes it all comes down to how well you write the report.
Every detective would have went in that car and did exactly what he did.
Right.
The guy did his job. Okay, he did his job. There was a lot of information at that time. All right, the car was at the last shooting. It wasn't a coincidence. They were dealing with a 101 here. All right, there hasn't been a guy like Son of Sam in 40, 50 years. They did their job. Thank them, no matter which way they had to do it. And, I want to point out, too, they arrested him in Yonkers for a machine gun, Filatico, with Fernandez at the headquarters in Yonkers. But I just want to point out originally that Berkowitz committed no crime having that gun because it was not a machine gun. Okay, it was a semi-automatic, which was registered in his name. He legally owned it. So you don't see that arrest on him because they couldn't arrest him for it because it was a legal gun that he had. It was not a machine gun. They just arrested him saying that as it would give them a reason to take him in.
Well, I mean, people say the case would have been thrown out because of this illegal search and seizure. But if you got David admitting himself, I did this, would that have made a difference?
No, again, I tend to think that in a case that was that big and,
They would have found a way.
The nature of the crimes.
They wouldn't have let him go, man.
I feel like the courts would have looked the other way on a lot of things.
Yeah,
They would have found a reason to come up with why the search was appropriate and all that stuff. It's just too big of a case, you know.
When they arrested him, they asked him too, if we didn't find this gun on you, if you didn't have this gun on you, if we couldn't put this gun on you, would you have lied to us? He said no. You know,
I don't doubt that he wanted to. I mean, he was an unhinged freight train. He wasn't going to stop until he got caught. He had to know he was going to get caught at some point. So I mean, he was.
Oh yeah, he tried to get caught.
He was throwing in the towel in life. The problem was he was taking other people with him, and that's the coward.
Well, he said he was going out in a blaze of glory that night. He was arrested. I mean, he had the clips fucking taped up. He was ready to go. Zigo said he, reached his hand in the army bag and found these like 4 stacked up loaded clips taped together. I don't know what he was planning to do with those, but
he wanted to shoot more than one person.
Maybe it's something he learned in the army, a trick or something. But Zigo said that you couldn't believe what he was saying. Like all these magazines were like taped up in this neat order. So
there are some reasons why that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, look, anything's possible. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it's just, so you're doing these shootings, you're spacing them out significantly. I mean, there were times he didn't do a shooting for months.
Yeah.
And he's just going to work every day like a normal guy, talking to people about the shootings and walking women to their car to protect them from himself. And,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of behind the scenes stories like that.
Right. But so he's not so impulsive that he's got to go out and do this every night. But he was doing them. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, after his last one, he decides within a week or so that he's going to do a whole different style of attack. I mean, talk about changing his MO.
Yeah, well, he said in killer tapes he sensed that the cops were coming to get him.
And I believe that. I mean, I see what I think what happened. I think the reason he went to Brooklyn that night is because he felt the ground shrinking beneath him in Queens and the Bronx. Because people are stupid, right? So the parents, Robert Violante's mom or dad or whatever, says, "Do me a favor, don't go to Queens." Like, well, how about just don't go out? The guy's out there. He's out there on the loose in New York City. What? Because it's only been Queens and the Bronx so far. You're gonna, you don't think your son is risking his life by going out in Brooklyn?
I've said to Neo so many times, I can't believe people are still naked in cars at all. It's amazing. Tommy Zano and Debbie Crescendo and the freaking in front of them, and then you got Robert and Stacy.
I don't know what I would have been doing.
Right. So what
I would have been going out.
He was probably driving around. He indicated in the letter that he was going to do something on the anniversary, which was what, the 29th, right? Yeah. So he didn't do anything that night. My guess is he was probably driving around, but he
knew the feds would be out.
Huh?
He knew the feds would be out that night. So he's like, it's too hot out there for me. I'm going to wait
too. At that time, everybody was staying in.
Well,
that was the heat of everything. People didn't want to go out. His targets were scarce. He couldn't even find people because of like what you're saying. There wasn't many to pick from anymore. So he probably did go out that night. And 2 days later, you see.
Right. But again, he went out probably in Queens and the Bronx or wherever, who knows where he drove around.
Right. Right. Good point.
In my opinion, the number of shootings that he did is too small of a sample size to really infer any solid patterns. There are, you could infer patterns. You can't put too much stock in it.
As far as location, you mean?
As far as location and as far as he's shooting girls with
I agree with that, right?
With dark hair, Violante tells his pops, "Oh, I'm going out with a blonde tonight." Like, come on, people, come on, man.
Yeah, there's some patterns there isn't. Like he uses the 44 or 8 attacks.
If it was 107, if he did 107 shootings and every girl was a brunette,
right?
Then that's a more of a solid pattern. But 7, you take a girl and you park a borough away and you feel safe because you're a borough away and she's a blonde.
And this is what stands out with Wendy's attack.
Huh?
This is what stands out with Wendy's attack. He uses the same gun in all 8 attacks, and Wendy is shot with a 32. No bullets to a 32 are found in his possession, in his car, in his apartment. No 32s registered in his name. You got David saying, I never owned a 32. The only handgun I ever had was a 44. Like, what? How
Well,
can they
maybe we'll
even?
find out when he's on his deathbed. Maybe he'll confess up to it or something like that. But who knows? It's again, that's true, but it's not this positive. It doesn't mean he definitely didn't do it. But yeah, you're right. It's a different gun.
Why don't you think David would admit it? But he would admit stabbing a 15-year-old girl and the night he was arrested, and shooting the old lady with a 45, which they tried to say he was talking about Wendy when he referenced that.
That's all true. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
why didn't Detective Klein go and fact check anything that he was presented to by Manny, like the Cassara dates, for instance? Detective Klein could have gone and questioned Stephen Cassara, or he could have listened to Man's DA tape, just like we figured out. He left there on the 4th.
Why?
And Manny's over there saying now, not only did David storm out, he's now saying, yeah, he packed his bags on the 8th. He's never used the pack the bags before. Now he's added that into the mix because he knows it's right. So
again,
he's
all manipulated information. Okay, that when you talk about it, it's all manipulated down to the person getting shot with the 45. He's managed to manipulate that into a Bronx scene when he literally, during interrogation, right after arrest, tells the detectives about that. Okay, he isn't making it up.
Look, if Manny goes to the homicide detectives and says, look at this, I think Berkowitz is good for this shooting, and they look at it and they say, yeah, we knew about all that stuff a long time ago, and unless you got anything new, we're not gonna.
But
if they say that, okay, they don't get their names in the New York Post, they don't get a Netflix special, right? I mean,
Yes.
Think about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
When you get information, right, and you find out it's manipulated, okay, and a few, it's a lot actually.
Well, how so manipulated?
Okay, why is it manipulated? When you get the information, you look at it. Okay, so wait, this didn't happen. Why did you tell me that this happened? Why did you manipulate it to look like this? Why? Ask yourself that when you're dealing with this.
My understanding is that
people manipulate information for a reason, is what I'm saying. It's not manipulated by accident.
But okay, I don't know what you mean by manipulated, because my understanding is that what he did was he basically took Son of Sam files, found something in them, took it back to the department who put that information in the files from the beginning and said
like the smiling we'll take, for example. Any just normal person that doesn't really look at this case.
But where did he get that?
David Berkowitz from? The only photo you got is him smiling when he gets arrested. So that's just the normal picture you have of Berkowitz, because it's the only one the normal public has seen, him smiling. Okay. There is not one witness that was at an attack that says he was smiling when he shot them. Not one. But yet he pushes the narrative because he manipulates what the normal public knows of the guy of smiling when arrested. There's not one witness at any of the attacks that say Berkowitz smiled before shooting him. Not one. They won't show one either.
He made that up.
These attacks are documented. Why can't we see any of the witnesses that said he was smiling before they got shot? Because there is none. He's managed to manipulate.
Where did he get that from?
The smiling of Berkowitz. He's managed to manipulate it so that it fits Wendy's story.
Wendy said it. Okay.
Because Wendy said that he smiled before he shot. So now he's going around. Yet there is no account of it. That's just one. I can go over a ton of them like that. Manipulating information.
I was thinking of something. Let's have a little fun. Let's piece together an imaginary scenario. I'll tell you the difference, right? Okay. What it was after the fourth shooting, right? That they put together that they had a psycho out there. They were right.
Dead.
Okay.
Yep.
It was only after the Virginia Voskerichen shooting that Mayor Beam came out and told everybody there's a psycho out there. Okay. So let's go back to the Froon shooting. They have the ballistics. They find like the guy said in the documentary, the new one. Found a big piece of lead on the dashboard, and they bring it to ballistics, and it's the same gun. It's a Charter Arms Bulldog 44. So they know there's a psycho out there on the loose. Okay, so let's say they do it by the numbers, standard police work. You up patrols, you put more cops out on the street. In the neighborhood where the shootings occurred, which is, I don't know why they didn't do that. I mean, if they did, they might have caught him right after the Virginia Voskerichen shooting. But let's say that that's what happened. They got extra patrols out in Queens, and he shoots Virginia, and he starts running down the street like he did, and there's a patrol car right there. And they catch him, they hop out, they take him down, they cuff him. They got the gun, they got everything. They got their murderer for Virginia. Case closed on that one. They find the gun, they check it out, and they realize this is the gun that did all these 4 prior shootings as well. So case closed. What's the difference? The difference is at that point, nobody had said anything to the public yet. So there was no pressure on the police, right? They just caught a guy who did 5 shootings. And how many homicides was it up to that point? 2 or 3, right? I don't know. Yeah. So big case. It's going to be in the news. Are they going to march him in front of the cameras like they did? No.
Right. I'm glad you got into this because I'd like to talk
No.
about positive.
Because why did they do that? They did that for political reasons, to relieve the pressure on themselves. Okay? If they catch him after Virginia Voskerichen, there's no pressure. So they can do things by the numbers. They can bring in people like Wendy Savino. And they can show her a 6-pack before he's on the TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
And they can get a proper identification. Now, if she picks him out then, if they show him,
that's what I'm.
Yeah, if they show her a 6-pack, or they put him in a lineup with 5 or 6 other dudes,
so she
comes out of the pants and says, "That's him, that's him, that's him." That's a good ID,
right? So she says that, he shot him, okay, and she didn't know this until she sees on TV and in the news, David Berkowitz, did all this stuff. So then she starts calling people. She sets it off. This guy shot me. Now, as far as a positive identification, it's not like they got a bunch of random people and lined them up and she picked them out and said, "That's him. That's the guy I saw." Being that they paraded him in front of the public and everybody's seen him, is her identification good?
No, which is why they're not prosecuting him.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, which is why they didn't prosecute him back then. By now, the statute of limitations has told. But back then, she, from what I understand, she was jumping up and down as soon as she saw him on the TV, telling people. I think she went.
Why
to the
don't
cops.
you think they took her seriously, Ant?
Huh?
Why don't you think they took her seriously?
Because
I think they did.
They had already.
I think they did.
Excuse me. Just to adjust myself here.
You know how many people came forth and were saying that Son of Sam shot me after this? I think they did take her seriously. They're not going to go back and tell her anything about something else that they're looking into or whatever, whatnot, as long as it doesn't add up with what she's saying. You have to
understand how they think, how the legal system approaches things. Okay, they have the guy. Okay, even if he did it, he's going to jail for the rest of his life for these other murders. Okay, we've already blown the ID. She can't ID her. Her ID is no good. So how are you going to pin? Unless she admits
wouldn't that look good on them, man? Oh, they got another victim, Son of Sam. Yay, NYPD.
No, it would look bad on them because they can't prosecute him for it unless he admits it. How are they going to
look bad to me? I don't like the disrespect towards the detectives that handled this case back in its time. It's disrespectful of them, like they missed it. That's what I think is.
When you're gonna move forward with prosecution, you have him cold on 7 murders because he has the gun that he did them with and he's admitting to them. So, case closed. Why would you roll into the prosecution a case that you can't prove? He's not admitting it. Okay. The gun that you caught him with, that he did all the other murders with, is not the gun that was used in that crime. You've blown the ID. You've blown her identification. You can't use that anymore because she saw it all over the TVs. That's no good. You've got nothing to go at the guy with. That's why they didn't take it. That's why they didn't prosecute it.
Yeah.
They blew it, but they figured he's going to jail anyway. He's done. He's cooked. Even if they believe that he did it, he's cooked. He's not going to do it again, and that's all they care about.
It's just like, we got a guy, we don't care about any other victims, but wouldn't they want to give Wendy the closure?
Yeah, they would, but again, they can't prosecute it, so why even acknowledge it? That's the way it's not like, hey, we think he did this one too, but
or did they have their suspect and they knew it wasn't David?
I think that was
I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know.
No, I think they did look into the case, and it was just another person calling saying, Berkowitz shot him, and they did look at the case because there was a case to look at with this. So again, why would they be contacting her after? So you don't know.
I just look at Wendy's, how she describes. I don't think I've ever heard such a detailed description of an attacker in a dark parking lot. How you can see blue eyes if he's laughing and smiling at you. Your eyes squint when you laugh or smile. And she describes these bright blue eyes. In one description, she's got him with a rounded nose. In another interview, she says he's got a crook in his nose. Dark curly hair, Italian, tanned, Cupid bow mouth, widow's peak. She got so much detail, even though she was under so much stress, and she was being shot in the face and the chest.
Right.
She got.
And that's why investigators don't put a whole lot of don't put a whole lot of stock in details like that. Descriptions from an eyewitness of like a facial description, it helps. It has its uses, but they're not going to throw out a case just because the person they arrest doesn't look just like the description that was given.
Well, then you could say that Joseph Messina, it could have been her attacker. Just they ruled him out purely because he had a mustache. It could have been an oversight on Wendy's part. It was a dark parking lot. He could have had a mustache. She was adamant, clean shaven. Could have been an oversight, But to clearly dismiss Joseph Messina, he was one of the suspects.
Right. And she described a 30-year-old. Okay, that's left out of, they want to go right to the weight and height, which is a standard weight and height that's given there. And they want to leave out that Wendy described him as a 30-year-old. He was 22. So again, the information that was put before the NYPD was manipulated. Okay, and that's why it was only made to see what Manny wanted the NYPD to see.
Look, in the past, I've said that. I always say I don't take a firm position either way. I know people hate that, but it's the way I feel about it. That's just me thinking as a cop. The only reason I even think it's plausible is because I just kind of feel like it would be odd if there were, multiple different, maniacs going around doing that in roughly the same time frame. But that doesn't mean that there's anything else.
Yeah, there was actually a lot of that going on then in the Bronx. A lot.
Okay, well.
A lot, like not normal.
Just random shootings of
That's people. What I'm saying. Go ahead and take any shooting from around 76 and 77, and I guess you can pin it to Berkowitz because you don't need to put the gun on him. You don't even need a witness to see him in the vicinity.
Right.
You don't need anything. So what's the difference if I just go get a shooting in the Bronx and say it was him? What's the difference with that and with this case? You're going to tell me because Wendy said she's seen him? When we just went over, that's
what I was kind of just saying. There's really nothing.
And the
solid.
Sketch looks like every Italian guy that I know. I mean, so who are we blaming here with the Sketch?
Well, again, the Sketch doesn't mean all that much because the other ones were way off too. But it's
Manny thinks he does.
Well, I mean, look, it's not a horrible sketch of Berkowitz. If it was Berkowitz, it's not a horrible sketch. But again, the sketches don't mean all that much.
The sketches don't mean anything. I admit that it resembles. Okay, you can find a lot of things that resemble a lot of things. That doesn't do anything. Again, where's the evidence? Even with all of this stuff, smiling,
it's lacking at evidence, which is why it wasn't prosecuted in the beginning. Okay, and I can assure you, if there really was no statute of limitations, they would never be pinning this on Berkowitz and closing the case now, ever, because they would have to prosecute him. Okay, they get to do this for free. In other words, that's what I'm saying. They get to do it for free. They can say, yeah, he did it, case closed. Can't prosecute him. Statute of limitations is told. It's a meaningless, entirely inconsequential way 50 years later for a detective to grab a headline and to get himself in on Netflix. That's it.
Let me ask you a question, Ant. I don't know if you know the answer to this or not. Someone brought up a good point. So Joanne Lamino died a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Apparently from injury sustained in the attack. Could David be charged with her murder now? It's difficult.
So
you had a crafty enough district attorney.
You can't charge him with a murder that led to her death, but you can charge him with a murder you don't know.
Attempted murder. Yeah.
Well, my understanding is that he already pled guilty to that shooting.
Not her murder, though.
Oh, you can't be charged. Well, if you're found not guilty, you know what? That's interesting. My understanding is that you can't be charged twice for the same conduct. So he pled guilty to shooting her, and was sentenced. It was rolled into his sentence, right? It was part of his sentence. He was sentenced for 6 murders and 7 first-degree assaults. I think. Something like that, because you shoot somebody and you paralyze them. That's an assault in the first degree, very serious crime. My understanding is that he already took the rap for all that. So, if she lived another 40 years and died, no, I'm saying no. You can't go. You can't just go charge him with her murder.
Well, Manny is under the impression that there's a lot more to the Son of Sam crimes and David Berkowitz than we know. As the Bronx Sniper. And do you think there's anything else David did that we don't know about Neo?
Well, Manny should be careful not to start wandering off into Maury territory.
He already has. What do you
Maury
mean?
Terry territory.
The whole time
in
Maury. You want me to go over all the lies he tried to inject into this case?
Well, what I mean by that is,
it's the same act.
Don't start stretching out the case into the wildly speculatory just for literary purposes. I mean, he's sort of out of material. He's sort of out of original material for his YouTube videos. So I wouldn't start going into the
right.
Remember, by the end of his book, Maury Terry had Berkowitz linked to Manson.
Right. Well, I'm sure it'll get there soon. There'll be more, I'm sure.
Right.
With detective.
So I don't know about all that. Did he do a bunch of other terrible shit in his life? I'm sure he did. He admitted to being an arsonist.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of stories.
I don't think he had the time. I mean, he was doing a lot. He had a full-time job. Going out a couple of times a month and looking for people to kill. I mean,
Yeah. No. Well, from what I understand, he was going around all the time.
Yeah, he didn't get lucky.
But what I mean was, he wasn't impulsive enough that he had to go kill somebody every night. Like it wasn't like, I got just starting to kill random people recklessly. I mean, that's what he was doing, but he wasn't being reckless about his approach to it. Sure enough, on those nights that he didn't kill people, he was driving around and he saw people that maybe he could have tried to kill, but he waited for better opportunities. Is what I'm saying. So he was not entirely impulsive about it. But he was driving around looking, from what he told people.
Well, I can honestly say, after watching that, I didn't learn anything new. I'm sure. And did you listen to the Killer tapes? Because I did when they first came out over 2 years ago. So I mean, I learned nothing new. It was nice to see a few characters I'd never seen before, like Joanne Lamino's brother and a few other characters. But apart from that, it was just like your average Son of Sam documentary. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, there was some new. I had never heard before that. I was cracking up. What was the detective's name? Off the top of my head, I don't remember it. And he was saying that when they spoke to Cecilia Davis, she told him that she was adamant that a parking ticket had been written, but they had already checked the summonses and there were none. Oh my God! Let me tell you something. We've been through the stuff with the summonses before. I'll quickly rehash it. When I first read that the guy had gotten caught by a parking ticket, and this was years ago when I first read it, he got caught by a parking ticket that was issued on the last night of the month at 2:00 in the morning, or something like that, right? It's 2:00, something like that in that time frame. Yeah, okay. And then when the 40th anniversary rolled around in 2017, you have the cop who wrote the ticket, Cataneo. He's on the documentary, I think, on the History Channel, and he says, I was never a big ticket writer, but that bothered me that he was parked by a hydrant. And I'm laughing at myself. If you're the kind of cop who gets bothered by someone being parked at a hydrant, then you would be a big ticket writer. If you took parking violations and vehicle and traffic law violations to heart, you would be a guy who was out there writing tickets all the time. So he's making shit up. And why is he doing it? Because he can't come right out on the TV and say, hey, listen, it was the last night of the month and I was behind on my monthly quota. Cops are expected to write X amount of tickets. It's not a huge number. It's very, very doable. But some cops are lazy and they wait till the end of the month. So that's the kind of cop that's going to hop out in the middle of the night on the last night of the month to start writing easy tickets, right? Parking ticket, fire hydrant tickets are low-hanging fruit. In Yonkers, it's like 15 feet from the hydrant. Down in New York City, it might be a little different. But if you find a car that's parked right on top of a hydrant, it's an easy summons. You get out, you write it, you hand it in by the end of the tour.
Right, it was the last day of the month, too.
It's the last day of the month. He's only writing it because he has to get it in by the end of the tour. So it can count towards his July summonses. Right? Now, what this cop says is, Cecilia Davis was adamant that a ticket was written, but we had already checked the summonses, and there were none written.
Right.
Okay? The guy he was off for 4 days, okay? He was off for 4 days, and he held on to the ticket all 4 days, and he handed it in when he got back 4 days later. And that's why we didn't find it when we initially looked. He's full of shit. They never looked, okay? They never looked for.
Well, she brought it to their attention.
Why would you write a ticket at a hydrant at 2 a.m? Because you're behind on your monthly number. By your own admission, you're not a ticket writer. So I know what that means. I'm a cop. I was a supervisor. I know what that means. It means you're a lazy shit. You don't like to go out and write the summonses. You don't like to go out and write the summonses that the captain asked.
It was a good ticket, though, man.
So you're only writing it at that time on that day, so you can hand it in by the end of the tour and get credit for it. If you wait 4 days to hand it in,
well, because of that ticket, he got busted. We needed that
4 days to hand it in. You don't get credit for it for July. You get credit for it for August, and it's
that's
not
what a lot of
get
people don't understand either, Ant. When Brooklyn calls up Yonkers, they're already on a Berkowitz. His name's all over the precinct.
Right.
They're already on to him. So when they call up and say, hey, this guy, his car was near the last shooting.
Yeah.
Red flag right there. A lot of people don't understand that. Immediate red flag as soon as they Yonkers. They're like, you got to be kidding me. We thought it was him. We were on to him. And now you're telling us that his car was at the last shooting. Get the hell up here, Yeah,
but the detective and this guy in the document, look, the same way that Cataneo himself made up a bullshit reason about why he wrote the ticket, okay? In that same way, that same fashion, this guy is, and I have it. I'm looking over here because I have it on in front of me on the TV right now. And this detective is making up a bullshit excuse as to why they didn't check the summonses in the area immediately, which is what they should have done. They're all chasing glory. They're chasing ghosts. They're chasing bullshit leads.
Yeah, without Cecilia though bringing it to their attention. What are the odds of them?
That's what I'm saying. They should not have had. It should not have required her to bring it to their attention that a parking summons was written. Okay.
Right. So what you're saying, as soon as the shooting happens, detectives, should have right away asked for parking tickets in the area?
Yes, they should check any summonses written. If it was someone was pulled over and written a seatbelt for running a red light, anything. You want to know who was in the area. Okay. Now they're saying, we already did that. We didn't find these tickets. There was 5 tickets that were written that we just didn't find. Okay. Because they can't admit that they never did their job right.
Again, it may have had something to do with the reward money. Maybe, I don't know. She ended up paying for it. They wouldn't give it to her. Maybe they were trying to maybe they were trying to look at the pattern or the way she helped out to try. I don't know. And I'm not saying that the cops did do anything crooked.
It's called CYA, buddy.
I don't know why that story was there. They had to look. You're right. I did hear they had to go back and look again for the tickets after she had said something. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just. And most cops or former cops will never speak publicly about something like that, like I do. I don't think it's, it just makes me laugh. Full disclosure, it's no secret. Anybody who's watched my stuff before, or even in the book I'm writing, I speak about it. I always had beefs with detectives, man, because a lot of them are lazy as shit. A lot of them don't know what they're doing. Okay, and they're all glory hounds, and they throw other people under the bus constantly. Right, that's what they're basically doing. They're basically throwing this patrol guy under the bus. We didn't find the ticket because he didn't hand it in for 4 days, 5 days, whatever. My ass. All right, you didn't check it because you didn't check it. You didn't find it because you didn't check it.
Always great to get a former cop's perspective on these things. No one else looks at things this way. Yeah,
but do you get what I'm saying with that?
Yes.
Do you get why he would have to make up a reason why he didn't find the ticket for 4 or 5 days? Yeah. Cataneo is no better. He's on TV making up a reason why he wrote the ticket in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that picture of him smiling with the ticket, he's getting his award or his hand shaking, like, good job, buddy.
something with reward money. I mean, reward money. Why would they not want to give Cecilia Davis the reward money?
They didn't. They fought with her over it.
No,
She actually got a lawyer and was suing them.
That's insane.
She got some money. What happened was the next day she was scared, and her neighbors talked her into calling Brooklyn and telling them what she saw before the attack. She had seen Berkowitz before the shooting. So,
all right.
When she called up and did that, but wait, they gave her some of the money. They gave Sam and Wheat some money. They gave her some money, and there was one other person. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But she had to split it with her neighbors. So they got like $33,000 or something, and she had to split it. And then she went for the reward that I think New York City was putting out, and they wouldn't give it to her.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. If they really did deny her that money,
yes,
because inherent to the granting of the award money is credit for the arrest, right? So you don't want to. They should have never come to that. Like I said, they should have been checking the summonses immediately, and they should have picked up on that without even talking to her. Okay. But if they acknowledge, hey, listen, this woman told us that a summons was being written, so she gets the reward money, because then we went and checked the summonses. The obvious question to ask is, well, why weren't you checking them already?
Right.
So they don't want to give her the credit for that reason.
She only went a day later. I mean, it wasn't like it was sitting there for a while.
Listen, I don't know. From what this guy's saying in the documentary, they didn't get this information until
No, look at the real info. No, it happened 2 a.m. on the 31st. She went the whole day there scared. And then the next day she woke up not knowing what to do, and her neighbors talked her into calling Brooklyn.
When did she tell them that the summons was written?
Huh?
When did she tell them that the summons was written? Because that affects things a lot.
I'm going to say that night they talked to her, but she was hanging around with Strano after that for a few days, like trying to figure out some other things, his clothing. She was taking him shopping, trying to make her pick out some of the clothing she saw him with. So she was hanging around Brooklyn Detective Strano days after. So I don't know if it was that night. It could have been days after. It could have came up. I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, I would have to know.
I think she told him that night, I'm going to say. But.
Well, guys, thank you for giving me your thoughts on the newest Netflix documentary. It's always good to get other perspectives on it, especially you, Ant, because, I already knew Neo's thoughts and perspectives on this, but it's good to have yours. So, as always, Ant, thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Neo, thank you.
Don't forget to get my book, because thankfully this kid didn't rip me off too much, and I put my book out a little bit after this production was done. So there's a lot in the book that was not put out in the documentary that is all good and good stuff to read, and a lot of letters, a lot of documents, a lot of truth. So, yeah.
So let's work on that. I want to confirm when she told the detectives about the ticket that she saw being issued to Cecilia Davis. And until then, I'll hold off my criticism of the detective for what he said on the.
All right, save that for next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be good.
All right. Be good.
Take care.
Be good. Bye. Bye.